We
Hey
live.
ho. Are we live? We are live.
We live. Welcome everyone to the second Womani one table. I need to.
Oh, are we doing karting again? I made that whole picture for you and you went with karting again?
Zen when he forgot. Sorry. I will use it next time. I'm very sorry.
That's no problem.
I'm
That's
Zen
okay.
way
It's
tired.
no problem.
Anyway,
That's can can folks see and hear us? Hive says karting time, so I guess
yeah.
we're up there.
Welcome to the karting LVP stream. What's your favorite karting levels, Lisa?
Um Gosh, most of the Victoria's Lab levels are pretty great. There's the Monster Island level where you actually drive through the monster that I liked a lot. The Doubtworthy levels that are all like 50s retro but future aesthetic. You got lots of like airships, lots of like kind of rounded square shaping. I really like that. Space Base is fantastic. All the races in Space Base are great. Um, Almost like everything outside of the gardens levels. Like the gardens levels are pretty good. And the canyons levels, well, like gardens, canyons, and wedding levels are fine.
Mhm.
Um, but I think we're probably
Yeah.
getting pretty far afield if we start talking
Yeah,
karting
yeah.
because I
Let's
could do
start.
that for 2 hours.
Okay, so this is the second one type, but this is specifically continuing apart from the first one, where we talk about Romani media representation. That first part in the first one was much more about specific, just talking about like here's some basic introduction about Romani representation in media, and that's just some talk about like how can this be sized. It's much more like a bit more of the media criticism side. So I'll start with a bit of history. Regarding Romani media representation. So since for level, of course, like with every marginalized group, there's been depictions of Romani people. This has been started since forever with songs and books and stuff. The issue, as always, as we talked the first time, is a lot of all of those books, all those poems were first written by non-Romani person, non-Roma people, sorry, and the second thing is primarily a lot of them fell into a thing I talked about. In the first stream was just going to like the pure Womani thing of like, oh, those non mixed waste Roma people that don't exist, and like oh, Roma people are mixed at this point, even by decades and years and centuries ago. Um, they like to fall, like and have fun, unlike those evil mixed ones that are bad because yeah. So yeah, there's been like those depictions, and as that got over the centuries, you started seeing like a lot of the stereotypes already talked about before, and like depictions and parts of this go into like a lot of popular media. Like one of the examples I think of is I'm guessing you're familiar with Zanele, Weezo.
With Zenel?
Zane Eile. Let me fucking type this. My
Yeah, I might. It's not ringing a bell
not Eile.
off the top.
Uh,
Oh my god, your avatar types too.
yeah, yeah, it's cool. This. I posted in the Discord, so
Oh, it's in the Discord. I'm like looking at chat. I'm like, when's it gonna pop up in the chat? Um. Oh, Jane Eyre. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, you probably know
Yeah.
what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. In Zaynab, there's like a subplot about like one of the there's being like a mysterious like woman fortune teller that shows up and like tells the cat of the fortune, and then turns out it's like a white witness lady pretending to be a woman person. Uh,
Why?
you see, it's both tied to the book and tied to like I'm using this as an example to go like in a lot of these depictions, you either get like you basically just get the aesthetics of Roma people. So you get like fortune tellers, like free frolicking people, and you get like a lot of there's a recurring element of characters pretending to be Roma for some reason, either for a plot reason or to some way embody like an justification of Roma people. Uh, so yeah, you start seeing also some like much more like I guess I would say positive depictions. Like, I'm guessing you haven't read Hunchback of Notre Dame, the actual book, right?
I haven't read the actual book. No.
I haven't read it in like a long while, but the book tries to do a thing where like it's trying to like depict like what was like the down classes of France in that century and that era in a very kind of mixed way because of like both of who writed it, just the air and also just like some writing failures, but like it does this thing of like both humanizing them and instead exoticizing women people as this like scary but exotic thing and like primarily like if I remember well in the book like the Roma cattle dies to make the hunchback sadder. Who he also dies to be clear, but like it's like you get like a lot of depictions that are like try to mean well, but still go into like those stereotypes, and then you get like archetypes like there's the very famous like one of the big like non-European ones. There's a lot like I've talked this briefly. Spain has one of the biggest Roma communities in Europe, and also one that's like the most so-called like quote unquote like integrated. Like a lot of them like have like political positions, write books, and things that have to do specific thing of like Roma communities there. So you started seeing in Spain like a lot of depictions of Roma with specifically because they're very big in flamenco. So a lot of flamenco operas have them. Like Carmen is the big one. About this guy that falls in love with like a Roma lady, and like has to go like a lot of romance intrigue. There's specifically Arthur. One that has a movie adaptation I really like is one called Weird Slava. That has a movie adaptation from like 70s Spain that I actually like a lot. That's basically about like this two Roma lovers and this Roma bears like fighting fighting for like these two guys fighting for like the love of a woman, and then one of the other women that dies. That's one of the guys like a love interest as well has to do. It's a very interesting thing. I haven't like seen or where the original opera, but like the actual movie how it does it is like this very interesting melodrama that just has like Roma people and culture in it. But yeah, so you started seeing like a lot of like that, and then what happens is a lot of like the very stereotypical depictions get into Hollywood, specifically in the form of adaptations like Dracula. Like Dracula servants in Dracula are like Roma people. Why is that? Because Bram Stoker was a piece of shit weirdo. Frankly, very weirdly racist guy. But yeah, that also
I'm
like
not shocked, no, but
that also just ties into like feel of the like it's all ties it like specifically on this side of like horror stuff. It all ties into like feel of the Eastern European, which is like a different fucking thing. But like it all ties together. So like in Dracula's servants are like Roma, which also goes into some messiness because Dracula's technically based on by a little guy that actually did slavery and wanted about Roma people. In same thing, Frankenstein, Wolfman. That
and
also
that's
goes into that. Go ahead.
those are kind of like the depictions that I feel like I'm most familiar with in U.S. media is generally through like the horror side of things and the old Universal monster movies, like you mentioned with Dracula, Frankenstein, and Wolfman, and then kind of the later either adaptations of those or things that are like directly inspired by those. So you've got stuff like Van Helsing, um, but that kind of not strictly negative, but heavily stereotyped and kind of low key spoopy, but like they're not generally in those films like the bad guys.
It's like it's a lot of genre, just a lot like exoticism and just like I think like I'm asking like first time is a lot of a lot of this depictions not even treat many people as like people. They treat them as just like basically a collection of stereotypes and like imagery. Like it's just a messiness because like Frankenstein. I don't actually was Wolfman based on a book or something. I don't actually know about Wolfman.
I can check real quick, but I don't
But
remember
like
offhand.
with Frankenstein, even if Frankenstein is very different from the book, Frankenstein and Dracula, it's all very much messiness of like adapting things by like British and like Eastern European writers that have like their own prejudice.
Okay.
And like just then putting it into like the specific American brand of like specific American Hollywood racism of that era. So like
Mhm.
so like Roma people in like those depictions become even more decontextualized because like there's a lot. It's with at least with Dracula, there's depictions already like very bigoted and racist, but when it puts into like the Hollywood machine, like the Hollywood blend, it becomes even more just like a collection of like imagery and aesthetics.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, so like for like a long time you had like these depictions of like the Fortune Towers and things. This is also how you got like the depictions like Doctor Doom, Magneto's kids. Like it's all like the same. Wasting the bears in like fake Eastern European country, like Fortune Tellers stuff. Uh, then as things move on, specifically in Europe, you start to see some more like humanizing depictions, specifically from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's like a movie I haven't watched yet, but from Spain called like The King of Roma. It uses a slur, but I'm just using Roma. For example, in Spain, it's about like Spanish Roma communities of the time. Like you started to see like some in the European side, you started to see like a bit more humanization because there's a more increase in like by the 70s, 80s, 90s, you started to see like much more combative like organization like Roma people. The thing specifically with the American side, because those depictions stagnated.
Yeah, and I feel almost like I feel almost like the usage of like Roma as people, as opposed to like a Roma aesthetic,
Hmm.
really like falls out with those older films. Like, so you'll see things in like Lost Boys where like the outfits that the guys are wearing, and there's like that aesthetic to some of the outfits, but like there's no Roma in the Lost Boys.
Yeah, it's like like very aesthetic with like it's also nice if I believe where a lot of like music movements were using those aesthetics as well, like the psychobilly stuff and yeah. But like because of that, it just becomes a lot of aesthetic stuff. So like my main interaction with like Roma people and like American media, English speaking media, there's a lot of horror stuff, and a lot of horror stuff is just like just the base by space like same things. With
Mm.
to start the bit going, I'll do a thing like I'll continue the history, but also just like do some examples and talk a bit about those examples. Before we talk about the slow book, let's talk about our favorite guy that we like talking about. That's right, Stephen King's TMO.
Oh, fucking Stephen King. Oh, Steve. Are we talking about Thinner?
Yes, we're talking about him.
Oh, let me quick give a greeting to Portable. Portable dropped into chat because I know you can't see chat. Portable, it is a pleasure to see you. Um, don't worry at all about the cards, and stay as long as you can. But I know that you've got stuff that you got to do on your end. But thank you so much, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. We're in the middle of a bit of a roundtable at the moment. And Alice, back to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, your mother. Like, I have seen Tino. I have read a bit of the book before, but like because you're like Stephen King expert.
Well, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert, thankfully, on Thinner, but I am familiar with Thinner, and
uh, how do we start?
it's.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
it's very much well, what we mentioned before, like kind of the humanizing of
dehumanizing.
Roma characters in you see like in Europe,
Yeah,
European media and European cinema, and this is kind of jumping in the opposite direction where they are very much kind of villains in Thinner. I mean, there's the curse, and
yeah,
that's something that like kind of floats around in U.S. media depictions of Roma. Is that like there is the Roma curse that the old Roma woman can put on you if you do something, um, and she. Well, did we? I don't think we're gonna spoil it. It's in the title.
it's just
She
like
cur-
like a guy that's like fat. Tino's like incredibly problematic for various ways. This guy gets that's fat. I think drives over a woman who's Roma, right?
Mhm.
And like I believe like her husband or like father like curses the guy to basically become tin till he dies.
Mhm.
And then like the stories about that specifically. I
I
believe.
feel like
Go ahead.
there's maybe a couple of curses that are going around there. He hires a hitman I think the hitman kills some of the Roma and then gets cursed to death.
It's like it's really goddamn fucking racist.
It's real bad.
Like
Like it's
it's basically just depicting almost like a bunch of evil people that put curses, even though technically there's a justification. Like it's one of the things. It's weird when we talk for level like the Roma curse stuff. There's always like this weird justification why the Roma do the curses that in literally any other media will be like, here's the justification. The justification is why these characters are sympathetic, but no, with the justification is always just a way to test the story. It's never to actually humanize characters.
mm-mm.
Like the guy actually hitting a little woman with a skull, and like the curse is not. Oh, this person was feeling very emotional because a family member died, so he put the curse. No, it's just evil curses, right? That's what an actual minority group do, right?
Oh yeah, you gotta watch out because they've got mystic powers that'll curse you, and just out of evil.
It's one of those things where, like, I mean, like, it's a good way I'm using this as to put in a bit also about the history. It's like, reoccurring things like the mystic powers things, like I explained the first half, women people actually do, like, card reading, tarot, like, beliefs in, like, folk beings and magic, because first, most marginalized, like ethnic minority groups have that, even European minority groups have that. Like, this is a real, like, in a lot of cultures, stuff like fortune telling, stuff like believing in magic and stuff like that is really common. But
Well,
because of
the
what, go ahead.
well the speaking of like common like folk stuff and thinking about the Sicilian old women with the evil eye and how that was like a big stereotype that went in with that particular ethnic group and well, don't cross a Sicilian old lady, she'll give you the evil eye and that's a curse.
There's like a
um
lot of like, there is an element of like this is being asked as like just an element of like weird question culture stuff. Because this
mm,
ties back into like the Roma like ex minority group is not actually that question or everything because like packs just weird things that are satanic or something. Like, but yeah, like this is just normal culture stuff that gets then put by caricature as like evil stuff, and every fucking thing does it, and every fucking person, like most fucking people group do it. So yeah, so I got like this weird racist depiction of like those things are the curses, but also like just like if I remember well, they're basically just like caricatures. They don't actually do anything besides "I'm gonna curse you." I don't actually think Stephen King is that interesting for white though. But yeah,
I mean he's not.
but yeah, it's "I'm gonna
He could be
curse
a
you."
fun he could be a fun writer, but he's not an interesting or a curious writer.
But yeah, it's like
Um,
go ahead.
Soup says really quickly, Soup was saying that it feels like this loops back to you pointing out in the last roundtable that Roma are often portrayed as mythological creatures and not like, actual real flesh and blood
Oh
human
boy,
beings.
before we end here, no, oh boy, soup. Get hype. Speaking of that, get hype. We have a tabletop book for you.
Oh yeah, this is feel the hype. It's gonna be
But yeah,
it's gonna be hype.
it's like this thing because like again, even though technically the Roma group in America is like the biggest Roma community, no one talks about them. So you got this. It's basically a stereotype of a stereotype of a stereotype of a stereotype, and with Tano, it's just a very obvious example of that because it's just they put the curses, and then I think the guy kills people, and there was
I don't even remember how they get rid of the curse. Like
uh,
I don't
I don't actually
does he
remember. I just know one of the Roma people put like the blood in a pie. And the thing is like whoever eats the
Oh, he's
pie,
gotta eat it.
yeah. So he tends to like his daughter eating the pie, but also like one of his neighbors or something that he doesn't like because he's sitting on his wife. Uh, he eats the pie as well, and the guy just smiles, and the story ends. But yeah, that's another thing. Like the whole they're putting the blood, like the blood in the pie. There's like a lot of actual blood rituals with like Roma people because this is culture stuff. That also ties into like general cultures. Like in Southern Europe, it's very common to sometimes just cut your hand. You cut your hand, a bit of blood comes out. You then shake somebody's hand as like a friendship thing, which is common at the cultures. But like in Southern Europeans doing like you actually think a bit of beer possibly if you're doing that. it's a stereotype of the stereotype that like dehumanizes people into just actual culture practices becomes just like weird courses. Just becomes like weird collections of things. And you see like there's like at the heart of that era there's like a million fucking things. A bunch of like Dracula remakes, a bunch of gothic horror stuff, a bunch of books as well. Like and then it goes into this weird tension because while to be clear, in Europe this stuff was happening. The thing is because Europe, like I mentioned before, the racism is European people actually know what Roma people are, so the racism is much more personalized, even though if it's still like all lies. Like it's based on specific like fear. So wait, Weezer?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Okay, for a second I thought cut out.
Yeah, no, I'm listening to what you're.
No, but yeah, it's specific because in Europe a lot of, even if it's all just made up, a lot of it gets still more personal because it's like all still local. So like you still see the caricature of the caricature, but like it's much more than like personal by the way, you know.
Okay.
So like a lot like in a lot of European media, Roma people are like there's this weird tension like a lot of European media, a lot of like you need to get like three types. So you got like like just evil women that want to kill people and are like shady and they do crime. A lot of stuff in Europe is like, oh, they do drug trafficking and stuff like that. Which is a lot of difference because instead of focusing like weird course of stuff, the racism is much more like the racism like Americans do against like Mexicans or something like, oh, it's the drug traffickers so bringing drug into the community, stuff like that. They're bringing weapons. Stuff like that. Then you get like very like white label persons of like, oh, these people just like noble savages. They don't know anything. Just need to get like somebody to like depict them. There was for example, in Spain a couple of years ago, there was a controversy because there was this movie about like there was this movie by like a Spanish non-Roma director about like a lesbian, like a white Spanish lesbian dating a Roma person who was also a lesbian, right? And there was a controversy because that movie fell into like a lot of like white savior tropes, so like Roma people are more homophobic than white people, or they're like just they're
really?
Specifically a lot. This is a thing that we'll probably talk a lot later. There's like a lot of like because things here are personal. One of the talking points from people who want to hide their racism is like that Roma people in Europe. The thing is like Roma people. One of the common arguments is like Roma people are more like conservative or more like backwards in their beliefs than like civilized white Europeans. Like they hate women, they hate gay people, they hate yeah.
That's like such a common stick to beat marginalized groups with.
Yes. It's really common, so yeah, it's not surprising, but like it's one of those things where like because of that you get like you got like white savior depictions that are like, oh, this backwards people, this white person's gonna teach the Roma person how to respect the women or something like. People like with every marginalized group, people have done studies. Roma people are not more or less like backwards in their beliefs on anything than literally any populace. And if there's like a big divergence, it mostly has to do with like local areas and like the fact that a lot of them are isolated because of like actual fucking discrimination. This is not. They hate women because there's an ethic made to hate women or something like that. But yeah, like, and the third one is okay. The third one is like you get much more like humanizing depictions. Let me get the name. There's a French director I actually need to check out. I haven't watched any of his movies. Yeah, Tony Gatif, French woman, director that makes movies only in Romani, in like the French version of the Romani language, makes like a lot of movies about like Romani experiences and stuff.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like I mentioned before, because Europe has like systems of like they're not perfect, but like systems of like public funding for like art that specifically also focuses on like what would be called like national minorities, which often include like Roma people. So because of that, there's some space. Because again, like the difference, like this is why it's interesting going between like the slog and actual depictions of like humanized people, because there's in Europe like the struggle is between like incredibly racist depictions that are still like depicted in like just the same ways like any marginalized group get depicted. They like it's either like the drug trafficking, like the crime angle, or like just the backwards. but that's like much more like humanizing depictions, and then like just the in between of like a lot of people just fighting and doing white sabreism. Um, so like there's the tensions, and then there's the context between like a lot of American media that also influences that media. It all combines. A lot of American media is just being like, oh yeah, courses, weights, stuff like that, which creates like this weird like. It leads to very weird stuff because, to no surprise, those American depictions are used then by like weird right wing guys in Europe. Um,
So they're kind of like bouncing back and forth. They're feeding each other's shitty depictions.
yes, it's like one of those things because like it's one of those things where like but the American depictions influence like a bit of the European depictions, while the European depictions are still the own thing. But, like they'll bounce back and forth, if that makes sense. So like those, so it creates this very weird messiness where like it just creates this like weird climate of like what is actually being Roma, because you got the very depersonalized, because a lot of the depictions often is either incredibly personalized American media or media that's like, oh, the drug traffickers are going to traffic them, they're all Romani. So like it creates this loop of like self-image that like is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like just to tie a bit into like the American stuff, since we talked about a bit about Tierno, let's just do the slow book now.
Do you want to do the slur book right now? What one thing before we jump into that, but just popped into my mind. Did have you read Hannibal?
I have watched the movie Red Dragon. Was it?
Did they like it? I know they when they're gonna arrest Hannibal and they want to get his fingerprints and they hire some guys. They hire some guys to pickpocket Hannibal, and they're wearing like a silver bracelet that Hannibal's gonna grab, and they're gonna get his fingerprints off the bracelet. My brain is saying that those characters were supposed to be Roma, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's one of those things. Like I think the last one, the movie, it's one of those things where like even if there's no aesthetic used, there's like a lot of characters that the Roma code, because it's just it becomes an aesthetic, you know.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
like a lot of characters who do like weird parts. There's a lot of characters that do like investigative methods like weirdly. They get like coded that.
Oh well,
Uh,
no. The investigator was an Italian like police detective, but the pickpockets
yeah.
they hire, I think, were Roma.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean. But
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
So like, there's a lot of coding like that. It's like a lot of pickpocket characters do get coded as Roma, even by
Mm.
just accident, because those tropes just like get put assimilated like general like pickpocket tropes. Because
Well, I
there's a
was
lot.
thinking about like how the stereotypes bounce back and forth, like you were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, to give an example, I feel like I think I don't. It was not Oliver, but I know one of the South Dickens books. I like depictions of like Roma people's like pickpockets, and that's very common. Just like a lot of this, of course, is not even just like media, like books or TV shows or whatever. A lot of this is just like for like people's beliefs that can just like then just get put in like a person's head. You know, it's like so
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
enough people, but if like enough people believe a thing and say to another person who's never actually engaged with the community, they'll just go, oh, people. Even if you just say, oh, pickpockets in this area just look like this, like. And even if it's found by personal experience or media or whatever, like it's always gonna lead to like weird stereotypes that's always just kind of like target Roma people, not our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
So,
go
so you've
ahead.
got like those kind of like just like the background assumptions stereotypes, and then those are getting folded into stories like with Dickens, and then those will be picked up by other people and spreading that background stereotype, but with no connection to the actual Roma people to kind of push back against that.
Yeah, it's one of the things. Like once you talk like in the like to give an example, in Europe, when like a lot of people talk about pickpockets, when people say, "Oh, be careful about the city because it has pickpockets," even if it actually has pickpockets, the main people that are talking when they say pickpockets, it's like not the dog whistle, but it's very like beware of those Romani people, because like pickpocket is often associated with Roma people, like after
Mm-hmm.
like national minorities that are like very discriminated. but yeah, let's do the slow book.
Let's
Who's
do the slur book. Dude, I should I? Do you want me to read anything from the wiki so that you don't have it
please just
like
explain
dirty in your mouth?
what the slow book is.
Okay, is that so? Slur book is a supplement for White Wolf World of Darkness. It's called World of Darkness slur. Colon as in the grammatical mark, not like the word colon. That would be really weird. This was published in, do I get a date? 1994. So this is going, holy shit, it's 30 fucking years ago. And it purports to be about the Roma people and how you would work them into your vampire or werewolf campaign. It feels like I don't think that they would probably lend themselves too much to mage or changeling.
Yeah.
I guess maybe changeling. It's a hot fucking mess.
Okay, let's be clear what this is. This is a tabletop book about how to make an actual how to basically tweet in an actual group of people with community labels and codes. So into hey, this is the elf sauce book. Here's how to make your D&D elf. It's basically just doing a sauce book for an actual group. As you can probably tell by us calling it the slow book, it has the slur in it. The weird thing is this thing is retelling and explains a lot of things about media depictions of Roma people. This thing actually uses the term Romani for a lot of it. It mentions the Romani Holocaust, it mentions actual discrimination, but at the same time, it does a lot of fucking stuff that is in genuinely deeply fucking racist. First, talking about how Roma people are they have a mystical purpose, actually trying folk beliefs of Roma people about certain words and beliefs in magic into where they'll actually have the demon's blood and the vampire's blood, and they're the first people to talk with the vampires, and it's and also then going stuff
yeah, they purport the origin of the Roma people to be from vampires.
It's again, this is the weirdest thing, and one of the weird again, the fact that several marginalized people get depicted as caricatures that don't even feel like actual people groups is not uniquely Roma people, but it's not a uniquely a Roma thing, but because of the specific conditions of Roma people, we have this weird thing where one of the groups where this most happens to. So to give the denseness, like I said, they talk about actual discrimination and real life stuff. They talk about the Holocaust, but then you have stuff Roma people were created by the vampires, and it's this weird thing where the fake stereotypical just aesthetical just fucking fantasy media version of actual people contacted to tell actual thing with what they actually are.
And it's wild having you put it like that, so bluntly like that. I think really highlights how deeply fucked up it is, because you wouldn't have D&D source book Japanese people.
Yeah.
That would be fucked up. Or you where you're having rules templates and character templates for a people that actually fucking exist.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable. There's a part where to go, create your Roma family, just make create your family of Roma characters to have as context. I'm this is family Roma culture, in a lot of cultures is a really important thing. When you're a marginalized person, you have very few people outside your family, even as bad as the concept of family and stuff can be. Often blood family and cultural non-blood family can be the only thing, and to make that as create your fun D&D group of wacky fun characters that the family's genuinely repulsing.
Yeah, it's now. Do you I don't know if you know, and I don't remember well enough, but like I do remember at the time that the book even then like was not a popular book.
Yeah, the book was not
Um,
popular. If I remember, it got backlash. I don't know how much of it was Roma people, but a lot of people were like this is bad. If I remember well.
I I that's actually what I wanted to ask though. Is like because I remember that it wasn't popular, but I didn't remember if there was like an actual backlash to it at the time. Um, and but you're saying that there was, so that I know that there is now.
No,
Like
at
I know that there's
least
people who's
like I was not there, but at least when a couple years after the book came out, because I was like, I looked at a lot of bottom posts from like 2005 and 6 and 7 and stuff, right? So like
mm-hmm.
only a couple years after like White Wolf died in Italy, there's a lot of people still calling it, oh, this was a bad book. There was very few, like even when I was like started getting like White Wolf internet in like 2012 and stuff, a lot of people were like, this was like when like the internet had not like gotten progressive about a lot of stuff, right in general, at least doing respecting internet. Other people still going, yeah, this book is really bad. Like my first introduction to the book was somebody in a blog calling it racist in like 2013 or so. So like I want to say like I need to actually research more like the original reception, but it seems like there was at least a lot of people going, I don't know if this is correct.
Like
And
I definitely remember like in my like the time periods that you're talking about on internet boards, like I do remember that. Like in the early 2000s, like even on Big Purple and RPG Net at that time was it's still not now, but much better now than it was before, but was definitely not a bastion of progressive thought in the early 2000s. And even then on that board, people were like, this was a fucking mistake.
yeah, I feel like it's just very obvious with with the use of the real life people, and like even if people don't know about the story, everything else just seems off.
Mm, mm, mm.
Specifically, like because we're talking about this, we'll talk a bit more. But specifically, I want to just mention. Let's mention our favorite guy. No, sorry, Jonathan. Our favorite people. Let's mention our favorite people. The Wagners.
The
Uh,
Wagners? Like
the
Richard Wagner?
the Wagners, vampires.
Oh, the Ravnos. Okay.
But no,
Way to go, my ears.
no, yes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
so alongside the book, that's a little racism book, Vampire Masquerade. In Vampire the Masquerade, as people know, there's clans, right? And one of those clans, like a lot of the clans are racist stereotypes. Is the thing that was the thing with the original White Wolf. One of the clans, one of the clans was called the Wabnos, and there was just a clan of like money thieves, basically. Uh,
Yeah. They the so the Ravnos I shit. They first show up in the player's guide, right?
mm-hmm. I want to
So when
say
was that?
Player's Guide, then like one source book, and they got the We Buy source book. That's
Because they get their splat book and like their actual clan book, and that comes out later. But they show up in the I think the player's guide first because they show up with the first four independent clans. You've
yeah,
got Giovanni, who are the mafia. You've got the followers of Set, who are seducers and drug dealers, heavily coded to be Egyptian and Northern African. Great for that. Love that. You've got the Asamites, who are Middle Eastern terrorists and assassins. Love that. It's wonderful. And you've got the Ravnos, who are very heavily Roma coded
yeah.
and whose special ability, Chimera is illusions and trickery, and whose clan weakness is a compulsion to steal or indulge in vices.
Yeah.
So deeply fucked up,
The
super fucked up.
yeah, the slow book even mentions the connection between the Wabnos and Roma people. I'm like, man, this is styling. Like, this is just deeply fucking racist, and how do I say anything else? It's just like, let's make a clan of vampires. That thing is, they cannot stop stealing. They're tricksters. Um,
I will say one thing.
yeah,
Uh, One thing about Clan Book Ravnos, I think it might be the first and only time previous to like learning actually more about Roma from Roma sources and Roma people and yourself, well, who is also a Roma person. The first time that I heard the connection between India and the Roma,
yeah.
where in most like American depictions, that's not really mentioned at all. That usually the Roma are very heavily coded to being just Eastern European, and that's it.
Yeah, because
Um,
most people making the scatters in America don't know the connection with India.
mhm.
Which is another difference between, because in Europe a lot of the connections is still like, to give an example, in Italy a couple of years ago there was a proposal by one of the fascist parties there to deport all Roma people to India. Like a recurring thing in Europe is a recurring thing is like European fascists want to deport all Roma people to India, even though Roma people are still they're just fully European at this point. That's what like
Mhm.
they've been here for a long time. We are European as like any other person. So like because of that, there's still like in Europe there's a connection of like India, because a lot of people cannot just forgive like a lot of Roma people having like much more darker skin. So like that's a recurring feel. And because of like the business of America, it still just like goes much more to like the Eastern European stuff. Because of like the media depictions, like what gets sold in America.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the thing with the weapons and the connection to India is like later. So with the clan book revise, right? Because every clan got a revise this, and that changed a lot of stuff. Some for the better, some for the
Mhm.
worse. If I remember where they did a thing with the Ravners, where like first, technically they killed almost all of them, but they like the revised book still goes, oh, technically the Ravners are not all Roman. They're like actually Indian inspired, and I'm like, congrats on doing galaxy brain racism, my people.
You've managed to jump from one racism track to a completely different racism
Like
track.
making them Indian is just like, yeah, there's the Roma connection with India, but also it's just like Indian people also get those stereotypes. So like, congrats,
Mm-mm.
you just did the same thing with a giant group of people. But yeah,
Supam is saying they do understand that's not better, right? And to Supam, I would say this is a step up for White Wolf.
it's like it's just like a weird step up. They actually like to be clear, they killed off most of like the Wabners. Partly because of the racism, second because they were not popular in a lot of places. Think they were annoying. Because from what I understand, people playing them in group was just make people like was just have their characters steal bunch of stuff. So like since the one of the owners,
And yet they kept the Malkavians.
yeah. So because of that, like they just went in the actual law. The like head person basically got killed. Was killed most of them. But like a few remained. It's the same thing with like the new like their sort of like Vampire the Masquerade, which does a weird thing of like they basically say in the source book, please don't play the Wabners unless you really want to play this. They take to stay away, but like the most recent like they've been doing like this Vampire Military and other stuff, right? And the most recent like one that I actually played a while ago had the Wabners main character, who's like still like better written than most Wabners characters ever, but like still lame as in like the stereotype of like steal stuff, or like the first thing in the game is like she steals like cat parts.
As
Like
one does.
it makes sense in the story, but it's one of those things where like you make a character like the stuff that would make sense like any other clan becomes just intense to like Simpson meme of everyone tagging their column.
I was I was also looking up the on the wiki uh the Ravnos stuff to see like the post what I knew about the Ravnos, like how they had changed, how they dealt with the clan a little bit. And I did notice that there's like there's a couple of choices for clan weakness with Ravnos now, and like but one of them is let's see, it's called Bane Doomed, and that the Ravnos have to basically move constantly, or else they will if they stay in the same place for longer than a week, they'll start to take aggravated damage.
You will see.
Um, and like that seemed to me like, again, kind of to echo Soup, like you do understand that that's not better.
Just to
Like you
be
do understand that you're taking just a different stereotype of Roma people.
just to be clear, so while some of the writers were American, most of the original White Wolf writers were Nordic, specific Swedish. Sweden has its history of like actually just doing genocide of Roma people. They in the 60s and 70s they sterilized like a bunch of women so like they couldn't give birth.
Wait, the OG White Wolf writers, they were. I didn't know they were Nordic.
I could swear, weren't they Nordic? Wasn't there like a halfway
They might be. They might
of
be.
Americans and like Nordic people?
I never looked. Like I never looked too deeply into their bios. So
But from what I remember, it was a mix, right? But
it would explain a few things.
yeah, like some of White Wolf remember well because Mac Guggenheim was like an American, but like some of the people like Swedish, Norwegian, I want to say. But
Okay.
either way, as Nordic countries just have like their own history with Roma people that's really fucking bleak. But yeah, like it's one of those things where like it's just reoccurring into like this Xenoa stereotype of stuff that's just like retiling to like even engage with this stuff.
I mean, I can't strictly speaking say that I understand that, or certainly not at the degree that you do. But I can imagine how to go into like any genre media, any kind of like horror adjacent or fantasy adjacent media, and have to kind of brace yourself from the start.
Yeah.
That you might run into, like, here's a collection of stereotypes that we're going to call a character, and it's it's stuff that is directly pointed at your group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that being really fucking tiring.
It's one of those things, like I've said, there's like a weird tension about this. Because like I mentioned, in Europe, like again, things are not bad. Like Europe is just really racist against Roma, but it's primarily because like this is one of those things. There's a difference between like depictions of a people group, even if bad, from a place where the people group is actually recognized as a people group, right? Because like because there's a difference between that and like the pre or the humanization into like fantasy characters. So like to give an example, like there's that popular Wither soul. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called like Peaky Blinders. Incredibly British name. So that's so white. The main character, the main character is actually Romani coded in that, like actual Romani. I mean, so that's so it's like set to like I want to say like 1920s, like British like crime gangs like the city of Birmingham. Where it's like it has like Irish characters, Roma people, stuff like that too. And like actually, from
Like
what
I know I've seen pictures.
I've seen like
of
4 episodes of it. I think it's like one of those things like it's a very prestige take on like the crime thing or like the crime historical thing, so I don't buy with it that much. But besides that, it's one of those things like it from what I understand of the show, from what I've heard from people that have been watching it and everything, it tries to actually dehumanize these people, so like Irish people, like Roma people, but because of its space as a crime show from that era, it still fits into like the space of like this is still like a crime show from this era. It's like even if you perspective in anything, like I think this is fine to do that. Like because of like the space it is, it still goes into like, oh, this is a crime prestige drama about the main character who's Roma, but still is a criminal. Which is not say you can have Roma characters that are criminals. A lot of the best Roma depictions in Europe and outside have had characters who are criminal. They talk about that aspect, not Roma people being criminal, but that aspect of like what you have to do when you're poor and you're isolated and have to do like a crime survivor. It's primarily just like in the prestige of like the fact that like in the space of even the most respectable stuff, it's just this limited on. You understand? Like this this like, this is like the only depictions you can get, even when respectful. That are not like actually made by Roma people, because none of those people, like none of the people making that show is like Roma. So like it's one of those things where like there's a weird tension. It's like there's a weird tension, and to go back my point, it's like you basically have to like pick your venom between like It like deeply racist depictions that mean well, but are still like fitting into like the same stereotypes and like just stuff that it just feels like not even talking about you, like talking about some fantasy creature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fucking one. Actually, one of the woman movies I really like a lot is there's a Yugoslav, so like it's Serbian, but it was made once Yugoslavia was still a thing called. I even met Happy Roma. It uses the Z slow, so you have to use the Z slow when looking at that. But it's like it was made like during like the '60s, like experimental wave of like subversive like Yugoslav cinema, and it's like they actually got Roma people. It's about like Roma group and like Soviet ways and like living and having life. And, like it's a Roma story, and does
Mm-hmm.
that in a way that's like is barely kind of witty, but also like honest in a way. A lot of stuff is not honest because it's clearly comes from somebody trying to actually depict the people group as an actual people group, even easier because thing done by thing done in the '60s by a person who's not actually Roma, but like pick and choose you ban him. It's one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things primarily. But yeah, it's one of those things like you basically just have like the very much tension between like these depictions and like between actual people trying to depict these people like Roma people as actual things, and then just here's the slow book. Here's how to make your Roma cat on your fun by a role playing game.
I feel like it's. I mean, to a lower degree, or I don't really want to say lower stakes, but kind of. But like you kind of get a similar thing with trans depictions, or I guess any marginalized
It
depiction in
happens at
media.
any
Like,
marginalized group. Like I said, it's common to every
yeah.
marginalized group. It's just very much one of those things where like we are more, not more, but like it happens a lot to us a lot. But yeah, I
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
would get it. Like it happens a lot to like trans depictions. That also happens a lot to like Indigenous Americans as well. Um,
Yeah. And
like
it feels like there's a lot of parallels between like Native American depictions and Roma depictions.
yeah, specifically because also like they get used a lot in Harlow and stuff like that. Like the same way there's a median woman like woman Fortune Taylor, there's like a median in like a Native American burial around us. Like in like Harlow, there's like a median like
Mm.
scary spooky in Native American person.
Or the helpful like wise old Indian man who will give advice to the white main character to solve the problem.
Yeah, this is like actually this is like a weird kind of thing. I saw with Roman depictions because other Roman depictions, even the most serious ones, do have this thing of like, oh, the one wise person in the Roma community that knows everything. That's the one that's willing to communicate with the outsiders and stuff like that. Because at the end
Oh,
of
it's like in freaking like in Brain Dead that we were talking about the other night.
yeah,
That's the Roma character, and she's a fortune teller also.
it's one of those things where like I've said this before, a lot of Roma depictions and a lot of treatment of Europe, in a lot of treatment in Roma people in Europe, even though Roma people are not indigenous to Europe, is basically similar to a lot of indigenous groups all over the world,
Hmm.
because those same tactics of civilization are done. So like a lot of the same tactics, a lot of the same way of speaking, a lot of the same rhetoric.
Mm-mm.
So like you can very much feel like a Miller just because of like a lot of the same tactics are used. It is very much what it is, and like this types of profession do intersect a lot.
Do you do you feel like you are seeing any improvement in
Uh,
that area? I feel like we talked about this a little bit at the end of the last roundtable, but
let's go in this in two ways. First, I'll talk about the European angle, and then I'll talk about when it comes to America because they're two different things at the same time too. In Europe, it's very complicated. We are starting. There's much more like the Pixels here as well. Like there was like a TV show. To give an example, there was a TV show shot in my near the area I live in is what's called in Portugal like a source neighborhood. It's like basically like just social housing area that has like a lot of marginalized persons, and because of that, those areas tend to get very like bad depicted in the media. Not just because of Roma people, but because also they have like a lot of like immigrants from the Portuguese African colonies, or the black people. That scares white people a lot. But there was like a show shot in like the one I live in, that's like about the priest solving the murder of like a Roma boy character that feels very much in the second category of like white savior stuff. But there's very much like one of those things where like there's been improvements in actual trying to think of like Roma people as like an actual marginalized group. So not just in actual fictional media. There's been like a lot more like ways in even all over Europe and other places of like we're gonna have like more Roma people, more Roma newscasts, more Roma journalists. More, like some newspapers have like specific Roma news writers now. We're gonna have some radios, and there's stuff like that, of course. At the same time, specifically with the Europe thing, is like like fascism is rising all over the world, not even just in the West, and specifically in Europe, it's really rising. And a lot of that fascism is targeting Roma people, of course. So because of that, there's this stance of like there is some progress, but like there's also like limits in that progress, particularly because particularly because like this is still like stuff by non-Roma people to some Roma inclusion. Though there's exceptions and positive things, but why do we have that? To give an example, actually, now to give an example of a positive thing, I'll talk about this when we do that one thing about what's living like what's like living actually as a Roma person in Europe, which will be the next and final one table. So the thing is, in Portugal, there's a racism thing, anti-Roma thing that I'll talk about later. We have a shop owners put like frogs, put statues of frogs near the entrance of the shop, because in Portuguese Roma culture, a lot of old people are scared of frogs because of bad luck. So it's basically just like basically saying by a statue of like no Roma people, like the same way you put the thing to say no black people either. There was like, which is really horrifying, but there was a movie a while ago, a couple of years ago, by a young Roma director about like a Roma person like smashing up those statues, and that got even like Portuguese Roma person, and that got a bit of a watch, got a bit of acclaim. That person, I think, is one of the public art councils now, which is very positive. It's very good. It's very good that there's actually media that's not just has Roma people. It actually depicts like Roma people actually the attacking a person in a way that's like actually physical. Like the entire shot's about this Roma woman just like smashing up symbols of racism, and it's not depicted as a bad thing or like too much or anything, which is really positive and led to a conversation here about like removing those statues. But at the same time, there's also like a rising far right in Portugal, led by a very racist guy, and that guy has like talked about how he wants like basically on purpose like one of the proposals in the program is literally making so Roma people cannot be visible in media outside of what they call special Roma zones. That will be basically like genuine concentration camps. So basically, it's one of those things like this tension between like actual progress. This is basically every marginalized person right now with the rise of fascism. But there's this tension between actual progress, mixed progress, but like things that people want to continue, and then actual like what is happening now with the rise, because as the rise of the fascism is happening, a lot of groups are being very squeezy about supporting Roma people, about things, certain programs have been cut already. It's very big, it's very not great. And in America, I'm not an American Roma person, but from America, I still see a lot of the depictions, we talk a lot about. Like one of the things is I do not want to talk today that much about comic books as we talked about the last time, and it's just a recurring thing with the American depictions of Roma people, like Doctor Doom, like the Kids. Dick Grayson was actually Roma. Was I forgot about? I looked it up for today.
I forgot about that completely.
It gets mentioned like in some comics, and it's very forgotten, but like. It's one of those things where, like, from what I've seen, there's still a lot of that. There's also things where, like, they cast Roma people and, like, stuff like this, things like cuts, like, like a white lady, like a white British lady. There's just a thing like I forgot, but there's like some opera or some play that's has like what's the name of this? What's the name? Fucking I cannot remember. But there's famous thing that gets adapted a lot that has a Roma character in it that they recently announced they're gonna cast it like a white actor. So like from what I've seen in America, it's still like a lot of stuff that falls into like the stereotypes of like the dehumanized fantasy ways, and some stuff that actually depicts them as like normal people, but like with the caveats of like they're not actually casting normal people. There's some progress from what I've seen. There's that Pixar movie I'm curious about. Uh,
You were talking about that like, a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
that Pixar movie, like I've said actually like last time, Marvel has its first. Marvel DC has like both their first like Roma comics writer. So like it's also progressing. So like we'll see what who got elected and everything because there'll be like a lot of backwards. After though the other thing, I'll be honest. Bit of a moment, a political moment of talking about the US parties for a second. I feel like Trump doesn't know what a Roma person is a thing.
I I think you would win that bet. I think
Like
that
it's
you could bet money on that and probably win.
like we are not, from what I've seen, we're not. A lot of the weird fastest guys in America don't actually know we exist. So while racism happens in America, a lot of from what I understand, that's to be much more local and stuff like X city or X state wants to move a camp or something, which ties into more like anti-homo stuff. Then
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think any of those people actually know Roma people exist. Like no American weirdos getting angry. There's probably some guy out there getting angry, but like there's a woman character and they're like doing the racism stuff out there and like so, like a comic book or something. But like it seems to be like much more like forgotten about in terms of what the fastest weirdos care. But again, I'm not American woman, so I'm not the person to ask about that.
Yeah, I can't speak experientially towards how uh, what an American Roma's person's situation would be like right now, but kind of thinking about generally like what does the average non-Roma American know about the Roma? And I think as even myself would a lot of us would be surprised that like no, there's a fairly large Roma population in the United States. There has been for an awful long time. Like I think that our background unconsidered knowledge of Roma is that they're not here and they're not around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably not too far off the mark saying that like on your nationwide level like fascist campaigning and racism that the Roma are probably not in those crosshairs, but on a local level, quite possibly, yeah.
It's also like, of course, not to go too much into American politics out because it's about media web, but like there'll be policies that will affect Roma people because they'll affect every marginalized person. So like it's one of those
Mm-hmm.
things where like, of course, we are still like threatened. It just primarily just seems like again, it's just one of those things because of the American thing that like just treated as fantasy people. So it just weirdly escapes you from like some racism because people don't believe it,
Mm-hmm.
even though you exist. It's just a weird experience, to be honest. It's just a weird thing to actually feel as like an actual person.
Well, there
Like
was like I feel like that was mentioned in the the title is completely gone, even though I just read this book like a couple of days
history
ago.
of Roma
Um,
people, history of yeah,
yes,
this
thank
is
you.
so yeah.
um, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the history of the Roma people. How like that's the easiest title to remember, and I can't. But I feel like that there's like an anecdote that's mentioned in that book about how somebody had written in to a newspaper, and because the newspaper had used the slur in one of their articles. I can't remember if it was like a headline or if it was in the article
It was
body.
Cincinnati or something like yeah.
And the person had written in and said, "Hey, like this is a slur. Could you not use it?" And like the newspaper's like, "They're not real. How could it be a slur?"
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, again, this is a reoccurring. This is, I think, has been. I was worried this conversation would not be the best because I'm a bit tired. I think this conversation has been so far interesting because I think it's interesting to context. Because we basically just talking about like the casting of like non-Roma people as Roma people and like what you can do about like in terms of getting like Roma media actually made, right? But specifically, this has been very interesting in terms of like contrasting like what like the weird because both versions of both the European depictions are bad. Like most European depictions, why there's like I would say like 20% of European depictions of Roma people are actually good now. 30 are like bad, and the West now 30 will be like just mediocre to like offensive on a sense of like white saviorism, and the West is a steep racism, right? But like contesting that, which is already bad, and then contesting the American thing is just how this actually affects people because both of them combine into this weird monster.
Let me let me can I put a pause in just for a mo because we are at the hour point.
Yeah,
Well, we're hour 5 point. Would it be okay if I took a stretch and got some water for myself? Took a little break.
yeah. I'll look at that to see what people have been saying. Also, we will return to the slow book because I have a story that is going to be a very fun story to tell about a certain
I
thing we got in the slow book. But anyway,
I'm excited,
go ahead.
but
Go ahead, yeah.
I'm gonna take the break. And I'm anticipating this story. And thank you, Soup, for the reminder. Soup was just reminding me about the hour point. Um, So I encourage everyone, Alice, you too, grab some water. If you need a sandwich, have a stretch, and we will be back in just 10.
Wait.
Because Soup could see your mouth moving, but there was no audio.
Okay, sorry. I did a thing that happened last time. That's so funny. Anyway, now what I'm saying is, so to go back, I used to hang out in the Discord that had a guy from RPG Twitter that was friends with the guy that was part of there was a plan to revive the slow book for the new vampire stuff that got cancelled post back, and I remember when talking with the friend of the guy writing it, his defense of the book and why the guy had the idea to reboot the book at all was really kind of like just made me think. Like the argument was basically, in D&D, there's this horror plane called Ravenloft that also has like Romani-inspired people that allow their own thing. But basically, the argument was like, well, D&D fixed those Romani people, so they're basically just horror characters now, and no one minds them now. And the idea is basically to just do that with the new reboot, where like we just lean into the horror pulp argument. With not to subtweet a guy I met years ago about the council book. At the same time, like that goes into literally everything I was talking about for like the last fucking hour.
Yeah. Like, there's no like. You can't just like lean into the horror aspect, the horror like pulp horror side of it, when the pulp horror side is almost completely built on these stereotypes.
It's also like that second. I'm not going to them because I was thinking if I should talk about them, but basically just talking about the Wabnos just basically talks about them as well. The Ravenloft Romani characters are like their own thing. A spoiler because it's D&D. A lot of people are still angry about them for obvious reasons.
Are they like did they are they still around then in like modern D&D?
From what I understand, they're there. Ravenloft is still a thing. Ravenloft is actually like the thing D&D has been marketing for forever now. When they decided to bring back the planes because they removed the planes in like 4R, then now they brought back for like 5R. But now they're back. The only thing I've seen, I've done research on this before, just out of curiosity. The only thing they changed is just they use the word. They don't use the word Roma, but they say Roma inspired for the characters when talking about the influences. But like they still like do the magic stuff. They still do the fortune telling. They are still like built to be like random people to be more than in a Ravenloft campaign. It's like it's like this is why I don't even want to go into them because it's just like your typical level of D&D thing. What they do with every marginalized group. It's like we sing some of the stuff. We keep everything else. We also abuse our workers and writers that we hire as consultants behind the scenes. Like happened with black people in the WoW, like happened with like the million other things. Right, so like there's not weird like it's just I brought up the thing to like put the nail over why a lot of people think like this because a lot of people just think like a lot of people this happens a lot with a lot of Americans. A lot of Europeans are different because a lot of Europeans like again for me and time because the fact that Roman people actually are like visible in Europe even for the worst. A lot of Europeans, when talking about Romani media representation, either they'll be deeply racist about it or they'll like at least pretend to care. So like the way like you normally talk about any marginalized group when talking about media representation with people not in that group was not great, but like just the normal way. But we're talking with like Americans often about this is like because people don't because people just find out really quickly that people just find out that Roma people are like an actual group. They'll like think of ideas like they're basically trying to brainstorm galaxy brain racism to keep like the elements they like of the aesthetics of Roma people. I notice often. So like there will be like a lot of things of like, oh, it's different. Like, what if you can just separate the aesthetics and like, listen, I'm not to say you need to stop doing those aesthetics at all because like some of those aesthetics are tied to like actual cultural stuff. At the same time, you need to change them, and you can, and that's just going and like, if you're gonna keep them, you need to be much more thoughtful than just saying that, admitting that it's inspired by Roma people and changing a slur because not referring to an actual group of people or a group inspired by them in fiction as a slur is the flaw. It's literally the lowest team can do, not to use a stone.
That's like the basement. We're not even at the ground floor.
So like yeah, it's really like again. I think this is why like I said, I was a bit afraid because I'm a bit tired of that this would go bad. But I think it's been going well, but because I'm able to context like the various ways of the representation and how like both ways are pretty bad currently. It's just they complement each other like the worst ways.
Mm.
Just like the head guy of the Wapnos who's like multi snake guy or something. Has snake head. And
He had wait. He had snake heads.
wasn't like
What?
seven like wasn't like a thing like it was like seven snake heads or something? I don't actually remember.
I don't know. I like because I was out of I think I was out of country at the very end of World of Darkness, like 1.0, or I guess it'd be 2.0 because it's his second edition. So like I know how I know that the head of the Ravnos woke up and everything went wonky, and then they zapped him with a space laser.
Yeah, they zapped him with the space laser. Um, very.
But I didn't remember like any descriptions of like him, because the way they had done it was they were doing these little like these little blurbs they were putting up on the White Wolf website, where like you'd have to get the actual like splat book to get the whole story. Like there was like a couple of splat books that they did for the end of that series. So I was only getting these like these little blurbs that were updating maybe a couple times a week. So
Yeah.
that's how I knew about the space lasers.
It's not the end of White Wolf is not good. Like
No. I mean, the beginning of White Wolf wasn't so great either.
I joke about this, but like there was the book that had like the best endings for White Wolf because they did not want to have one kind of ending, and one of the endings is literally Cain and Abel do a street fight where vampires watch in like an alleyway, and it's like the funniest thing for a time.
I kind of feel like that's the best case scenario, honestly.
It's so fucking funny, but yeah, no, but yeah, it's one of those things are like it's just like as I say, it's really weird being Roma often because you have to like deal with like this to like depictions and like just have to do to like a lot of messiness in media and like, but yeah, I do believe there's a way forward. It's just like let's see what's coming soon because stuff is not great currently politically in a lot of the world, most of the world. So like a lot of this affects as well. So like we will see what happens.
Yeah, it kind of feels like everything is going to be on hold for a bit.
It definitely feels like this is just a Zen of things. I can notice as like being trials and everything, but it feels like there was a lot of progress and now in most places everything will be on hold. For like a bounce or like regress even, which is bad then.
See, I'm hoping I'm hoping that it doesn't slip back too much. Because that's the other possibility, of course, is that the folks who've seen progress in these various areas for these marginalized groups are like gonna grab the pendulum and not just stop it, but push it back in the other direction.
Yeah,
And that's gonna get real ugly, real quick.
it does one of those things. It does one of those things as well. Like we talked, I talked a lot about fictional media depictions, right? But like there's another media to this, was like news media. And like news, like I mentioned before, news media depictions of all people having like historically fucking bad in Europe. Like there's a lot of imagery that comes from news media with depictions. Since like the 70s and 80s, a lot of like fears of like Roma having increased by like news media and similar like they do that to, like black people in like America. So like there's certain like it's the same thing. So like to give an example, a lot of common depictions of crime when money person does a crime in like all of Europe would be like they was if like the person has ever worn in their life like a hoodie, they also that they try to find a picture of that person in a hoodie or like tracksuits, like Adidas tracksuits and stuff like that. Because it's like it creates the image of like, oh, this person's very like low class, poor, criminal, because it's like stuff that's associated with more like poor people, but then gets
Mm-hmm.
racialized, and that stuff gets racialized, of course, like black people here, like thing, like stuff. But it specifically with Roma people, there's a specific image about that, where like a Roma person is like, well, wearing like hoodie or tracksuit, like looks poor, which goes into class stuff, and like those images again very like racialized, but like spread around the person's feeling,
Mm.
like people's minds and people's feelings. Even if they interact daily with Roma people that don't look like that will just be like compartmentalized and like would just be like thrown in
Well,
us
it'll be
all. Yeah,
like the ones that I know are okay and decent.
yeah. It will never be.
They're the good ones.
It will never be like, oh, this is actually the media's lying, because both like fictional and actual news media uses that image like put an image of like what that Roma person is. So like in a lot of those images, of course, very vulgar and very like
Mm-mm.
not just problematic, like deeply vile in what they're doing. Like, as of course, a lot of this depictions in like actual news media was just referred to people as the slaughter. This is the thing. People just use the slur words. It's like people don't. It's getting better. People are using more, but like with America, people just say the local persons of the slaughter. Which is that's an issue.
Like I wonder how it is in the States right now,
I know.
in that aspect, because now in my online life, and I'm either in spaces that like this space right now where you're willing to kind of walk us through these things and
Yeah,
educate, or where there's spaces that this is a little bit more general knowledge, and so like it is considered a slur and people don't use it in those spaces, but that's not like the US, and I don't really know like what it's like in the US now.
yeah. It's one of those things of like this is also like that's actually a good point. I do think it's like coming down in America because people find out there's a slaughter. I know there's actually some like much more like local activism in America now as well, because again, biggest Romani community in the world, so like there's a lot of people realizing that and doing stuff.
Mm.
One of the biggest examples I think of people realizing that is I don't think you know this, but no, you know this person. You probably don't know this person did this. So you know Jenny Nicholson, right?
I know the name definitely.
She's like a YouTuber. Like she does like videos about like Star Wars, like the Star Wars theme park, like hotels.
Yeah, she stayed at the hotel.
Yeah. So before that, she was actually a barely like big. She was talking about this. She was a very big like wait a second.
Oh,
She was no, just getting some coffee, but no. She was a
oh,
very
okay.
big like My Little Pony. Like it was not Pony because Pony was the term we used for mate. But, like the female person, like the woman person was like a pony, like that. I was facing. But like made the point like Friendship is Magic like person specifically
Okay.
because she did like this like it was a series of stuff that was like basically animated web series but for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and there was a thing where like because that was made like 7 years ago, that one of the characters in that had the slaughter, and that was the slaughter. And that's she got cut out a bit. Some people a bit maybe a bit too mean about, but like because of that, she apologized. I think took down some of the beaters with the slow cat and like realized that what the slow actually meant.
And she change the character's name, or
No, because the series was long over. I think there's just some remove some baby. Like, I
oh,
apologize.
okay.
This was like very or like a long over series. Just like a lot of people like rewatching the Beatles and went. And like I think it's a sign of like everyone realizing my bad. Like, yeah.
I did now. This is because I haven't kept track of MST3K since I was in the States. Really, did,
If
did they ever walk that back or like
I
address that
think
in
I
any way?
think they still use this. I actually do not know if they rename it. Rename the character. Maybe I would need to like.
I would hope so, but like I don't even know if they're still doing stuff.
No,
But
they had the Netflix season, but like that did not actually do a lot. I think it got cancelled plus those seasons or something. Because there was like two Netflix seasons, I think, from MST2K. And then it got cancelled, then I think they're now just doing riff tracks for timer.
it would be kind of nice though if they did say like anything. Like, yeah, we can't change it. It's way in the past now, but like we do kind of recognize
It
since
is.
there's still a fan base, we should maybe
Yeah.
make a statement.
There's a similar thing with in Pacific where one of the Max is named Destroyer.
Oh, it's like one of the is it one of the main
I
mechs?
think
Like I know
so.
which one you're talking about.
I
Yeah.
think so. I think if I'm aware that Tora got it from like a different thing. I don't remember the others, but like it was like a specific thing that he did not realize the context of the weather.
Soup is saying as of 2019, the MST3 character's name is GPC.
Okay, that's good.
I mean, I kind of feel like it's still spelling out the word, but okay.
But yeah,
It's a start.
it's definitely one of those things. Like again, just to wrap, not to start wrapping this up because we have like 20 minutes. We're gonna do like much more like free form stuff. But like it's very much one of those things where like there needs to be much more progress, and there's a lot of messiness we got in basically any replacement of more people. But like there's not more movements, more people, more everything, and hopefully even with the rise of fascism again, things will be protected at least, like the current things.
Mhm.
So at least when stuff gets more calmer, like you can progress much more farther again. Because
Well,
specifically, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, it's just like kind of hoping that, um, like the knowledge is still there. Like, unless we're talking like fascism manages to extend for like a couple of decades, like
Hmm.
people will remember the progress up to this point.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
So hopefully, like, won't need to be like reinventing the wheel and starting from base principles to work up to
Yeah,
this point again.
yeah, it's one of those things like hopefully everything goes every like that knowledge is maintained because specifically for like very isolated communities after like Roma people, it's important to maintain the knowledge.
Mm,
It's like I've said before, this is why a lot of Roma people don't actually want to like even be without the academics and stuff because there's a lot of like exploitation. And
mm,
like
mm,
there's been debates about this with even inside the Roma communities if people go too far into like protecting themselves from possible exploitation because of trauma, but like that exploitation still exists. So it's like there's a reason why those defense mechanisms exist. Even some might be outdated or bit over the top because there's a reason why that stuff always exists. Um,
mm.
because there's historical cases of people fucking up on purpose, and yeah, that's good stuff. Was yeah, but as always, I hope things be maintained and go well, and that woman presentation goes much more than just like, of course, goes much more than just the horror stuff, but also goes much more into just and then just like sad because like I mentioned this before, and I mentioned this well, like a lot of woman persons in Europe can feel like very much like into white savior, like sad woman person that has to be saved. Something like the criminal that knows where or stuff. and I want people to move beyond that, not in a speculative politics sense, because like I said, a lot of the best depictions actually comes from that area, from the specific like talking about poverty and stuff like that, and having to do with crime. But like this beyond that, in like those other ways to talk about it, just the ways we are confined to a median times, because positive representation is still like very like even if in Europe it started becoming a thing by the 60s and 70s, it's still very young. So like I would like also other options of doing that, and other ways of depicting more many people. That's not just those modes, why those modes are also important. Yeah. So like maintain like the current modes that are important, but also like just new ways of doing it, and like just as of course depictions of a many person that just doesn't have to do with a person, because like again, just normal people. Everyone does like mediocre fantasy fiction with them sometimes or something.
Well, definitely wanting to like. I can definitely understand the feeling of wanting to take these depictions and stories out of a very narrow box of, because like especially thinking in the in horror genre and like strictly fictional settings where it becomes kind of easy to think that these actual people are just trappings of that genre.
Yeah. Yeah, to be clear, I would love. It's slightly happening. That I would like to see like depictions of like horror media with more money people that are not just these stereotypes, like normal people, not just stereotypes, and like actually doing cool stuff with the folklore, because the folklore is cool, like any folklore. Just you need to. Stephen King, not the ideal person to write that.
Not Stephen King. Maybe not maybe not directed by Sam Raimi.
Yeah, not maybe. Since we're winding down, I can actually talk about this. But Ten was god is really. I only seen the movie. No, I seen the movie and read about the book. The movie's god awful, honestly.
Wait. Which movie?
The Ten movie.
Oh, I know I've seen parts of it at the very least.
It's not one of the it's already not one of the best King books, but it's just like the movie leans in very much like even ignoring the Roma stuff. The movie leans in very much into the fat phobia as a thing.
It's like that's the. I would almost say that is as as strong an angle, if not stronger, than the Roma side of the story.
It's
Because
bad.
it's oh,
No,
I was just gonna say it's like it's so much a story about fat phobia.
it's kind of disgusting to watch at points, to be honest, because like they really focus on like this guy being thinner, and it's like they depict thinness as bad, but only because this guy it's like a punishment for this guy. Like this guy wants to be thin and he doesn't get it. He just gets like it as a punishment. This is like yeah, bad story.
Yeah, it's not fantastic.
I used to listen to such King things. They talk a lot about that stuff a lot.
Yeah, I read the I did a really quick breeze through the synopsis to make sure I had the plot points right when we were talking about it before, and it's just like, oh god, it's a fucking mess.
It's
We didn't mention, but did you want to say anything about Drag Me to Hell?
oh, I forgot about Dog Me to Hell. Dog Me to Hell, like actually,
We
it can we can talk about it briefly because the thing is like actually it's very much a Tenor thing, but like Dog Me to Hell is interesting because I feel like it wants to humanize much more like the Roma character, not in an actual person, but it wants to be like it feels much more sympathetic as the horror trope, from what I remember of it. Because like the protagonist of Drag Me to Hell is like genuinely awful to the point where like it's a dark comedy to myself how like she's awful, right? Of it. But like in terms of the actual thing, it just falls like again, there's humanization in the sense of like this person is so bad Like the thing with Black Me to Hell is like this person is so mean that even the horror monster is relatable. Like how much this person
Mm,
is evil. Like not actually humanizing as a person. I think compared because there's, like you can talk about the main examples of this. There's also a Sonny Rival episode that's just the same plot. Uh like in terms of those depictions, it's not. I wouldn't say it's one of the worst, but it's just doing the thing, even if slightly more sympathetic because of what the premise is. It's still just doing the thing. I feel like
fair. I just wanted to check if you had anything that specifically you wanted to say about it, because it feels like it's one of the bigger,
it's
slightly more modern
it's interesting
ones.
because I would say like it's using the tropes, but like the evil Roma like fucking terror like curse thing was already being outdated by the Alice, so it tries to put it back, but also tries to like slightly modernize it for like 2008 or so. It's like I do think
Mm-hmm.
it's an interest. Listen, as a movie, I think it's interesting in that regard. I think it's still bad, but I would say it's interesting. And like as a movie, I like it. Finally, it's like I think it's interesting. I think I appreciate parts of it, and just at the same parts go, this is just doing the thing. But like in terms of doing the thing, there's worse depictions.
That's fair. That's super fair. Yeah.
It has at least tries to like put the protagonist from where at least like is like back to like the warmer person that so there's like bad in a bit it's like still like the fantasy monster angle. But yeah, it's like one of those things like it's trying. Which is not saying which is not the same for Slowbook or Tierna or like Wolfman or like whatever.
Uh, yeah. It's. I mean, it's definitely not thinner. At least it's not thinner. Um.
It's there's so many ones we can just talk about like I don't know, Abby Hammer Horror Dracula sequel.
I think I'm. I think I lost your voice there for a sec.
No, I was just making a sorry. Just making a joke
Oh
of
no,
like
it's okay.
there's so much of this that we can just talk about like I don't know, Abby Hammer Horror Dracula sequel. Um Abby Frankenstein sequel.
Yeah, like all the ones that any of the ones that are like kind of dealing with those particular types of monsters, like any of the movies that are very heavily European,
Yeah,
like in background, not necessarily production.
yeah. It's
They're
just
not in there's at least Hellraiser doesn't. Hellraiser doesn't. Hellraiser's
it's
okay.
Hellraiser doesn't do it, yeah. Surprisingly though, because Clive was British, I believe. And
He is British.
he says there's like a thing, technically not a Roma group, but British people still have takes around Roma and also UK travelers. So like,
I do you think that do you think that there's some of that in Nightbreed?
uh, I
Because
think
he might have gotten his
I,
desire, his drive to do that out in Nightbreed.
I think Nightweed is interesting. Like as a move, this is it doesn't even have to do with Roma stuff. I think Nightweed. Listen, I think we have different opinions on Nightweed because if I remember well, you dislike it much more than like
Mm.
me. I like Nightweed. I appreciate what it's trying to do with the marginalized angle. I understand it's an X-Men thing and like it comes to a lot of caveats, but I do think it's much. I would say Nightweed feels much more personally sincere to me, and like its appropriation of marginalized imagery than most of these things of these X-Men type metaphors. It's heavily
Mm.
flawed, of course. I do think critiques of it are very valid. But it's but I feel like it's operating on a level of sincerity that I don't see with most of these X-Men type marginalized metaphors. Personally,
I I feel like it comes through like I feel like in the book it comes through really strongly, and I feel like it's very much a queer book.
yeah.
Um, but kind of thinking about the visual representation of some of the characters in the film itself.
Oh yeah, I feel like you can draw that comparison between like well more like travelers. Um, in terms of like the visual imagery of the movie.
Oh, thinking of, there's because King's got to do it. King's got to do
Is
it.
there
There's
not a king
the
thing?
fucking Doctor Sleep.
Oh, fucking. Oh, right, there's that's the stuff. Here's the thing. When I think about Doctor Sleep, I just think of the thing where like those boomer vampires driving cars, being sad that they're older. That's the most thing I remember always of Doctor Sleeper because
Yeah, it's
it's so boomer core. It's so Stephen King. Yeah,
mm,
there is that stuff in Doctor Sleep, which is not great. It's
oh no.
like okay. Here's my brief thoughts around Stephen King and Mass Nice People. Stephen King, I don't think is that much hateful. I think he just doesn't understand any kind of like Mass Nice experience because who he is. So the only
Mm,
thing he can do is recreate holotopes he knows when writing them.
mm.
Also, he has awareness about black people, but that's a different thing. Um, yeah, but like I feel like a lot of like King's issues comes from the fact that he cannot actually he fundamentally doesn't have the Maslow's experience, so he can only, as a hollow writer, just copy those hollow aesthetics without actually realizing what he's doing, or sometimes realizing and thinking he's way too clever to fuck it up.
Mm.
And also sometimes he's just incredibly like is really goofy in how he writes certain things.
Yeah,
Shouts out to The Signing, classic.
classic Shining. I mean, oh god, The Shining is its own weird mess of things that he was working his way through, and I appreciate in some senses his honesty. Uh, but sometimes there's inside thoughts that maybe you should just keep to yourself.
Yeah, this is like just like here's the thing. I have watched like 30 Stephen King movies and have seen like and have read a full amount of his works. I don't hate the guy. He's just fundamentally thinks he's much more clever than he is.
Oh yeah,
If this
oh
was
yeah.
like a stream about a one table about autism, I can just bring out the autism cat and like what's the fucking thing? Dream something.
Dreamcatcher?
Dreamcatcher, yeah. Like the
Oh
weird,
fucking
like the
fucking
autism stuff of
Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher. Like because
Oh.
fundamentally it comes with just like him taking a lot of the stuff is like he fundamentally doesn't understand about nice people. Also, he thinks he's way clever than he actually is a thing.
Mm, mm, mm. It's I would say that's a really good call on King. Um, yeah, he's like any marginalized group. He's very weird about.
He's well, he's even weird about cis women. Is a thing.
Oh, he's very weird about cis women.
Yeah,
Uh, but I kind of go tying to the actual Roma Roundtable,
yeah.
but like I think that it comes through really strongly in Thinner.
Yes, I feel like with Turner, I would like because the thing with Turner is like I feel like King doesn't actually do the quest stuff a lot. Like there's no gothic quest, if I remember well.
Mm,
And I feel like with Turner, he was trying to do that thing of being clever, like this is a new take on the like Roma gothic quest thing, primarily by just doing the thing again and like actually not doing the spear. The only spin is that it's in modern day, like it's in a modern day at the time American city, and it has to do with like the guy having issues with like being overweight.
and the Hitman.
Yeah, and the hitman.
Definitely that's some kind of spin.
So like there's attempt at modernizing that, but this is tied to a lot of like a lot. This isn't even tied to Roma. Like this ties both Roma stuff and other people. A lot of people use stereotypical imagery, not just in horror, in a lot of fiction that they know they might not know where the imagery comes, but sometimes they know. They use it because they think they're too clever, right? I don't think with King he
Mm-mm.
knew, but specifically, sometimes you use imagery that's old or tired because you think you can do it. You can bring like the new fresh take. Um,
Mm.
and like often it doesn't result in anything because you're just repeating the stereotype with a new fresh coat of paint without actually doing anything. This happens a lot of like a lot of the Native American like horror imagery stuff as well, where a lot of writers think they're pretty clever because they're like they put that imagery alongside like a new context, but that context is still like the colonial like imagery of that, because they like people just think they're way smarter than they are. Often is the thing.
See, I haven't seen Bone Tomahawk, but I feel like from what I've heard of Bone Tomahawk that it would definitely fit very snugly in that
Bone
category.
Tomahawk is like, again, I can talk 2 hours about it, but Bone Tomahawk is very funny to me because it's trying to do that, and also it's on purpose exploitation for Trump voters. This is what the director said. This is what his goals are. So it's trying to be
I
something.
didn't know that part, but that's pretty fucked
Yeah,
up.
the guy makes like exploitation movie for like white wingers. That's the whole thing around him. But no, the main thing primarily is like it's a movie that wants to do that primarily because like with every right wing, the guy doesn't think himself as bigoted, so he tries to like put that imagery while also being something for people who are genuinely bigoted for like Native Americans. It's like it's a special case of that, but it's still that. It's also a bad movie, but yeah, I can talk 2 hours about it and I'm not. I do not.
Maybe
I do not like
we,
any of those guys' movies. I don't like Bone Tomahawk or like Drag Across Concrete, which is like his other big one that I thought was just really bad as well.
someday well, maybe in the future when we've done our third and final Roma Issues Roundtable, maybe we can come back someday and do a horror movie roundtable if you like.
Yeah, maybe next October. But yeah. I feel like we can wrap this up. Not this, but we can just like start wrapping this up. But as always, thank you everyone that was here. Thank you, Weasel, for hosting me. This, as I said, I was nervous,
Well,
but it went very well. And yeah, thank you for letting me say
well,
stuff about my koto. That's cool.
and thank you. Like I feel like I should be extending a great thanks to you. This is a wonderful opportunity for myself and for the community. I realize that it is a lot of stress, and it's a lot of like work, and you're doing most of it. So like that's pretty huge, and I feel like you have well earned appreciation. That's I feel like I did want a different word there.
Yeah,
You've definitely earned a break.
it's one of those things where like it's I could talk about this for years. I haven't even talked about like there's a lot of other things I could talk. There's like weird colorism regarding how like many people are depicted in skin. There's like other stuff about how many people are depicted visually because a lot of them go into I would say even a bit anti-Semitic because they focus on like the big noses, the big like aesthetics that like people associate with like Jewish people and like other marginalized groups, right? Because
Mhm.
people always confuse like many people Jewish people and stuff like that. Less so, but it used to be like much more like that older novel space. Besides, like before World War Two, even
Mhm.
like there was a combination of that. So like there's a lot I can talk about. It's like a lot because again, like with any mass scope, you can do like a one table like 2 hours and fix everything. But it's
Oh no.
important. But it's important. It's important to sell stuff. So like it's been good. I've been
I'm
really
glad.
I've been really good and like I'm looking forward for should be like next February next no when are we doing the last one?
I think that our tentative was the 20th of December because that would be a Friday. Um, that can be shifted up or down depending on how feelings and schedule
What's the
work for
day?
you.
What's the number of the day again?
The 20th, that
Okay,
would be the
cool.
third Friday of December.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can do it. And the last one will be just talking about what's like living in Europe as and specifically so as well Portugal. I'll talk about some local stuff as a Roma person. Spoiler: it's not the best thing for time. Um, wow,
We're, we're,
suckers.
we're going to keep our toes crossed that it doesn't get any worse in the next month.
Yeah,
The world is getting pretty spicy recently,
yeah.
and yeah. Are
But
you this is not on the roundtable talk, but I just want to ask to confirm, like, to the extent that it's possible to be so, are are you in a safe place right now?
Currently, I would say so. Like I said, I live in a very like majority Romani, majority Black, like social neighborhood area. It's like currently I'm safe in terms of community. What
Mm-mm.
some way what in terms of like people can do is to start sit here and people have started sit before, but like currently people are say currently I'm safe. I may be moving to France next year, so I'll see about that. But as always, I'm currently as safe as I can be.
Okay. That's a load off of my mind. I will still worry because that is who I am, but I'm glad to hear that you are currently safe, and I'm going to continue crossing my toes that it stays that
Yeah,
way.
last thing I'll say is, so personally, I think that makes a community much more safer is when there's almost no cops in the area. Um, because due to how Portugal works, a lot of the police was actually just put in the two big cities because a lot of areas used to be like much more rural, so like there was no issue for the police to need to put down some suburbs. So like compared to
Mm-hmm.
America, a lot of Portuguese cities don't actually have a lot of cops because they're focusing like the big two cities. Was
Oh,
in
that's lucky.
Yeah, which makes a lot of like areas with majority like Muslim people in them much more like calm feeling because you don't have like you do have to worry of course in the big cities or stuff recently with that like in the smaller cities where like they historically never cared it's like at least they can be a bit safer that cops won't like show up and like knock at my door or whatever. For
Mm-mm.
the most part they do show up occasionally. But yeah, but but
Okay.
but yeah, you can start the thing since we are a minute from like 2 or 3 hours.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna start to put a ribbon on it, and we'll do the countdown, and then you can close it, I guess, because that's on your end. But to everyone, and Des, sorry, but we are actually wrapping up. We are at the 3 hour point. Um, but to everyone who showed up tonight, I do super appreciate it. I think it's wonderful that we have this space in our community that we can kind of discuss these things, and that we've got Alice, you here, and folks like you and other topics that can share their experiences with us. I think it's really important to share that knowledge. I will ask everyone, as I always do, to please be uh, hi, brain meats. Start over. Good. I'll ask everyone, as I always do, to please be staying safe out there in meat space. Make sure that you are getting all of the hydration and electric eels that you need. Do try to be getting at least one meal in a day. It doesn't have to be great food, it can be trashy, but it does have to be at least one meal. If you've got medications, try to take those medications as close to schedule as your situation will allow for. But above all and overall, please do remember that you are important, you have value, you've got people who love you and are rooting for you and want you to have your best life. And I'm one of those people, but I am only one of those people. There are many more. And that has to do it for us here at This Go About. So from me, Disco, here in Tokyo, and from Alice
Mm-hmm.
in.
Portugal.
Do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah. Goodbye. Bye.
To all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you, arigato, arigasamariota, sayonara, see you, and ciao.